Not as bad as the past couple
Okay.
weeks, I don't think. Well, alright, guys, welcome back to another episode. Woo! Episode 25. That's my lucky number. So I'm honored to make it to 25. Not much going on this week. I mean, honestly, it was kinda, but kinda not a disappointing weekend sport-wise. But we'll get to that later on in our episode. So keep watching to find out why. But before we get too far into the video today, don't forget to leave a like, leave a comment, subscribe, turn on our post notifications. Our goal is 100 followers, and we are so close to hitting 100. So subscribe so we can up our follower count and do our giveaway for 100 followers. And we
Yes.
include the links below to our other social media pages, so feel free to check those out as well.
Alrighty, guys. Now we're starting with stupid statistics like we usually do. Please bear with me, I'm tired. So, first things first, Penn State University football didn't score an offensive touchdown for the first time in 10 years in their loss to Ohio State this past weekend.
Yeah, I think it's the first time in 10 years that they haven't scored an offensive touchdown. I saw this somewhere on the internet and I was like, oh, but I did watch the game and it was just not a great game for them, and James Franklin threw the bag yet again. So it's a rough week to be a Penn State fan, honestly.
Anyways, so Bronny James scores his first NBA points almost 21 years after LeBron's first points.
Does this make you feel old?
A little, yeah.
Same.
Just a little old.
I can't imagine how LeBron feels.
Okay, moving on. Okay. Danny Dimes finally threw a passing touchdown in MetLife Stadium this week in the Giants' loss to the Washingtons.
Congrats, Danny Dimes.
Next up, Derek Carr becomes the first QB in NFL history to lose to 31 teams.
So there's 32 teams in the league, right?
That's rough. That's bad. Anyways, moving on. Rudy Gay has announced his retirement from the NBA after 17 seasons.
Yeah, once again, I don't watch the NBA, so apparently this was notable this week. But I don't know who this guy is or who he played for, but apparently he was good. That's all I can tell you.
And now to the NFL. I will be doing what I usually do, reading you the scores from this week. So, first up, the Jets beat the Texans 21-13, the Panthers beat the Saints 23-22, Commanders beat the Giants 27-22, Bills beat the Dolphins 30-27, Chargers beat the Browns 27-10, Titans beat the Patriots 20-17, Falcons beat the Cowboys 27-21, Bengals beat the Raiders 41-24, Ravens beat the Broncos 41-10, Cardinals beat the Bears 29-9, Eagles beat the Jaguars 28-23, Rams beat the Seahawks 26-20, Lions beat the Packers 24-14, Vikings beat the Colts 21-13, and the Buccaneers versus the Chiefs are tomorrow night at 8:15 p.m. Eastern Time.
Love that. Okay, so I think we had a little bit of confusion, but surprise this week, because no one picked the Jets to beat the Texans, and certainly not the Panthers to beat the Saints. So I think those are two worth mentioning. Like, what happened there, guys? And then the Titans beating the Patriots too. Was not expecting that. And then, which game was I watching? Oh, I forget who it was. But I was watching a game earlier. You know what? I think it was the Seahawks and the Rams. Yes, because that game went to overtime. So I was watching. The Seahawks scored with 51 seconds left in the fourth quarter. And they did not go for two. If they went for two, they would have won the game. Assuming that they had gotten it, of course. But they kicked a field goal and played for overtime. They should have gone for two there. There was plenty of time, and yeah. But anyways, that's besides the point. There are a couple of teams that are off to their best start in decades. One team is the Detroit Lions. They are currently 7-1. This is their best start since 1956. And then Washington is 7-2 for the first time since 1996. So, pretty good start for both those teams. They both look like they could potentially be Super Bowl contenders. I believe right now, seeding wise, the Lions are 2 and the Lions are 1 and Washington is 2. But I think since the Vikings won, they might be 2. I'm not 100% sure. Don't quote me on that. If the Vikings and the Lions are in... hold on.
Yeah, I know for a fact that the top ones right now that definitely should be like aren't losing lately is the Lions, the Vikings. Even though they lost 2 games, they're still pretty good. The Washington Commanders, and then yeah, pretty much there. The Steelers are doing okay too.
Yeah, well, the Steelers
But moving on.
have their own thing. But yeah, so back to my previous statement. The Vikings will actually be, I believe it's the 5 seed because they are in the same division as the Lions. So unless that they leap the Lions, which I highly doubt will happen, the Lions will stay 1 and the Vikings will stay 5. All right. And then Colts quarterback Anthony Richardson has been benched for the rest of the season. This may or may not have something to do with the fact that last week he came out and said that he took himself out of the game because he was tired. Don't know why you would come out and say that. That's definitely not a smart move to make, PR-wise. But again, just speculating. And then the Browns are trading Za'Darius Smith to the Lions. So the Lions are acquiring another player. And then Texans wide receiver Stephon Diggs tore his ACL in last week's game. So unfortunately, he is also out for the rest of the season. Another ACL injury to another wide receiver. So that's unfortunate. And that just adds to the injuries piling on for the Texans wide receiving core after Nico Collins had his injury and he's on IR. So great. But that's good for me fantasy team wise because I have Tank Dell. So we're good. This week in the Saints game, Saints wide receiver Chris Olave had to be carted off of the field after a big hit from the Panthers defense. It was one of those balls that shouldn't have been thrown into that space. It was a very, very brutal hit. Oh my gosh, I can just see it replaying in my head and it's just nasty. It's 2 players coming in and just right on the head. Yeah, it's not great. Not great. So he was sent to a local hospital to be checked out. Thankfully, he was able to return to the stadium and leave with the team. And he also tweeted out that he's okay. So, thoughts and prayers for Chris Olave and Stephon Diggs. They're both recovering from their respective injuries. And now moving over to soccer. So in Serie A, AC Milan won 1-0 over Monza. Christian Pulisic had a hockey assist, but not a regular assist, so unfortunately that doesn't help his yearly total, but it's a hockey assist in my book. And then in the Premier League, Bournemouth, the shocking result here, beat Manchester City 2-1. Chelsea tied Man United 1-1. Tottenham beat Villa 4-1. Arsenal lost to Newcastle 1-0. And Liverpool beat Brighton 2-1. And then in La Liga, Barcelona beat Espanyol 3-1. And Atleti won 2-0 over Las Palmas. And Real Madrid's game got postponed. So we will have to wait to update that. And then in the Bundesliga, Bayern beat Union Berlin 3-0. Happy about that. 2 more goals from Harry Kane and 1 from Kingsley Coman. So this means that Bayern are the top of the Bundesliga by 3 points. And a little fun fact for you here. Harry Kane is the first player to score more than 10 league goals and provide more than 5 league assists in Europe's top 5 leagues this season. So, that's great. And then Bayern's upcoming games include Champions League this week against Benfica. There will be another Champions League game at the end of November versus PSG. Der Klassiker at the end of November. And then our next round of the DFB Pokal, which we found out this afternoon, are playing against Leverkusen again. And that will be the first weekend or midweek in December. So that's fan-freaking-tastic. And then, of course, we have Champions League play this week, as I just mentioned. So be on the lookout for something about that next week. So the Ballon d'Or ceremony was this past Monday. So there was a lot of controversy surrounding this because it was predicted that Vinny would win the Ballon d'Or this year. However, it came out last minute that he was not winning. So Real Madrid actually boycotted the ceremony and didn't send literally anyone to the ceremony, which is kind of awkward, but yeah, so trouble in paradise again at Real Madrid, but I don't care. I'm praying on their downfall. All right, and then we'll head over to F1. So guys, there's a lot to unpack this weekend, and I'm not so sure what all I want to say because I'm happy, but at the same time, I'm extremely frustrated. So, yeah, fun times. So starting off, weather-wise, we had great weather up until what was supposed to be quali Saturday afternoon. We did not get quali Saturday afternoon. We got quali Sunday morning. Fantastic, right? So then they had to push the race back, so they modified the schedule. And that was just crazy. I just couldn't. It's too much to handle. And then we had an aborted start because of something that happened. Well, because Lance Stroll beached his car on the formation lap. All that hard work from the Aston Martin team to fix his car from his crash in qualifying. And then he beaches his car formation lap. Like, yeah. So this pains me to say, but Max, to his credit, did have an amazing drive. He started P17 because he had a 5-place grid penalty because he took a new car component. I think it was an ICU or something like that. And he won. So I'm going to leave it at that. And then Pierre also had a great drive today as well. He went from P15 to P3, so that was great. And while I'm thinking about the weather, because I had a little thought, there were multiple red flags throughout the day today. At times, it did look like it was very unsafe to be driving. Okay, and don't get me wrong, I get that they used to drive in worse conditions, but I low-key feel like because I'm pretty sure the cars are moving significantly faster than what they did back in the day, that they shouldn't have been driving through some of the rain today. There were a lot of drivers complaining on their radios about the weather. I know Oscar said something. He's like, we gotta put the wets on, or we gotta like stop this race. Like, come on. And literally at one point, Ollie said that he wasn't trying to die. So you might be confused why I said Ollie, because he's not a driver, he's a reserve driver. Well, Kevin Magnussen came down with the flu. So Ollie took over for him. So that's great. But I'm pretty sure he had a fun weekend just tucked away in his hotel room, not sitting in the rain. Or driving through it, for
Right?
that matter.
He's just like, I'm gonna watch a good movie while I'm sick to my stomach, and you guys can go drive in this horrendous rain that was very unsafe at some points. I will agree. That one time when Lando, after the pit stop and stuff, when he was speeding up and all you could see was just water, I was just like, is this not like, does this, well, luckily they ended up pitting anyways because of the Calapinto's wreck, but I'm still like, I don't know. I feel like there could have been way worse wrecks, but luckily they didn't happen.
I'd agree. And then that brings me to strategies from different teams. So coming off of the very start of the race, Lando has a good reaction time, right? But he doesn't go and close off George. So George passes him and just straight through. And then we get a couple laps in, I'm thinking like 15 at this point, maybe. And they decide to pit because the tires are just not there. They're not getting good grip or something. They should have stayed out longer. Mercedes brought George in, and Lando also came in. And then literally the next lap, someone crashed and caused a safety car. So then everyone else pretty much got a free pit stop. But the top three, which at this point would have been Esteban Ocon, Max, and Pierre, all stayed out and kept going. And then literally someone else crashed and caused a red flag. So then everyone had to come into pit lane anyways. But it was just a costly mistake from both McLaren and Mercedes. And I get that you're trying to predict and you want to change it, but both of the drivers, both George and Lando, were advocating to stay out just a little bit longer. And the pit wall said, nope, come in. And they shouldn't. It was fan-freaking-tastic. So then, after this red flag, they announced that it was coming to an end, and they were doing a rolling restart rather than a grid restart. So this allowed for, well, before the rolling restart, under the red flag, the teams were allowed to change tires. So a lot of teams took advantage of that, but then the rolling restart happened, and like Esteban he went out and he built like a little gap there. But then something else happened, and then we got another safety car, I believe it was, and then on the restart of that, Max had a good enough jump to, get over in front of Esteban, so unfortunate. And so the tire change. So before the race even started, Mercedes actually changed the tire pressure with the tires being bolted, which you're technically not supposed to do. So there was an investigation into that because it happened with both Lewis and George's cars. So Mercedes got 2 fines, $5,000 per fine, for this. And then the aborted start at the beginning because Lance beached his car. So Lando went, I don't know, I guess that they thought that there was going to be an extra formation lap or something. So they went around again. Come to find out that that's not what you're supposed to do. You're supposed to just turn your car off and sit where you are on the grid. But Lando, George, Yuki, and Liam, I believe, all did an extra lap. So Lando and George were both fined 5,000 euros, but I didn't see anything about Yuki or Liam on that. So interesting. Anyways, but this becomes another talking point because a lot of people were saying that this was supposed to be a 10-second penalty, but the stewards didn't decide that. So at least Lando doesn't lose more points. But yeah. Speaking of losing, Williams may or may not be unable to produce more spare parts after the crashes that happened this weekend. So their entire 2024 budget is compromised at this point. And this will affect their car development for next year. So great.
Wow.
Great. Loving Williams' downfall here.
Definitely an interesting race.
For Alex. No hate for Alex, but Williams' downfall right here. Anyways.
We like the drivers. We just don't like Williams. At least I like the drivers so far. Not a fan of Alex's personally since his past couple weeks, but I like Franco. He's pretty chill.
I'm gonna choose to stay silent.
All right, moving on. So these are the results from the sprint results and the GP results. The sprint results are what I would have rather liked to see this weekend. But you know what? It's okay. It was Lando, Oscar, and Max on pole, which was really good. It gave us hope for the future, and that hope dwindled. Anyways, we had a DNF from Nico. Talking points is when virtual safety car was called. Should it have been called sooner?
Yeah, so the big deal here is that people are criticizing for when the virtual safety car was called, because before the safety car was called, it was actually Oscar and then Lando, but McLaren switched before the safety car was called. And then after they switched, the safety car kind of came up right away. But I mean, like, I don't know, because it looked like he attempted to keep the car running and try and, like, move, and then, like, he couldn't, so he gave up and, like, left the car. But people are saying that the safety car should have been called sooner, so.
And then this is the GP results. Max, Bestie, and Pierre. Max also earned Driver of the Day and a bonus for fastest lap. Just gonna leave that there. DQ Black Flag for Nico Hulkenberg, getting help from the marshals. Retirement from Carlos and Franco, and DNFs did not start.
So close.
DNFs from Lance and Alex. There you go. Anyways, moving on to the constructor standings and the driver standings. Okay, so McLaren is at 593, Ferrari is at 557, Red Bull is at 544, Mercedes is at 382, Aston Martin is at 86, and Alpine is at 49. Here are the driver standings. Max is at 393, Lando is at 331, Charles is at 307, Oscar is at 262, Carlos is at 244, George is at 192, and Hamilton is at 190. Checo is at 151, Fernando is at 62, and Hulkenberg is at 31. Everyone from Charles and below is mathematically eliminated. If Max maintains a 60-point gap to Lando, he can clinch a 4th World Championship in Las Vegas.
Great. But you will notice, however, that George jumped Lewis.
You know what? George has been working his butt off. He deserved it. Just saying. Anyways. Working his butt off. He deserved it. Just saying. Anyways, radar points, so I don't screw it up anymore. So my suggestions for this upcoming week is just, again, keep an eye out on the Lions. They have been doing really good. And I mean, honestly, I don't remember who they're going up against, but I do know that it's a team that's not known for doing the best. So if I'm correct, I could be wrong. And then another game, like an actual game I suggest watching, is the Steelers versus the Commanders, because they both have been doing pretty good lately. What?
So the Lions are playing the Texans. It's Sunday Night Football next week.
Well, I guess we'll see. I got that wrong. But again, the Lions have been doing really good. So, I mean, the Texans have lost a couple games, so. Again, I suggest watching the Steelers versus the Commanders. Their stats are really good right now. So I think it will be an intense game to see who's going to keep their streak going the longest. So, yeah, that's my radar points for this week.
And my 2 games to watch are AC Milan versus Real Madrid in the Champions League. That should be a good game between 2 European powerhouses. It will be interesting because, like I did say earlier, Real Madrid's game did get postponed this week, so Real Madrid will come into this game a little bit more rested than Milan will. And then my second game is Atleti versus PSG. Again, 2 other big European heavyweights competing against each other. It should be interesting, especially since, well, just knowing the playing style that Atleti has and kind of what PSG has, it will be interesting to see what happens. All right. And then we have, well, we'll just go over our podium predictions from last week to kind of just close the episode. All right, so I had a McLaren win, a Ferrari 2, a Mercedes 3, and a McLaren 4 because I felt bad about not having the second McLaren in the podium. Realistically, the Ferraris just didn't have the pace this weekend. I don't know what it was. They just didn't look overall that great. I probably would have been closer for my Mercedes, but Max kept pulling these laps out of the bag out of nowhere, and I think that we would have had an extremely different race had it not been in wet conditions, and that's all I'm gonna leave it as.
Yeah, definitely I can agree with you on the conditions. I think that boded well for Max. But moving on, if you guys did watch our last episode, you know I was also very off. I had Ferrari and McLaren. You know what? I was close to the sprint race.
Yeah.
I'll give it that.
It could have been such a better weekend.
It was such a mystery box weekend. That's the only way I can explain it. Just kept pulling out weird surprises.
Yep.
But again, congratulations to the Alpine. They earned it. But moving on, okay, to our last couple of things. Don't forget to subscribe, turn on our post notifications, check out our other social media pages down below. Don't forget to leave a like if you think Lando would have won in dry conditions, and leave it in the comments too. Like, give us your best suggestions. Also, like, what your predictions were for this weekend because I think we were all shocked. And don't forget to subscribe so we can do our giveaway. Again, please subscribe so we can get 100 subscribers. We're so close. So close. All right.
And
Good
don't
episode.
forget,
Hope you liked
if
it.
we hit 500 by the end of the year, we get to do another giveaway.